I can't give you anything but love, baby. That's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, we're sure to find happiness. And I guess all those things you've always
What makes a screwball comedy?
Well, what we've covered so far in the film series is we've talked about the origins of the screwball comedy. We've defined it, we've contrasted it with romantic comedy, and we've celebrated the screwball heroine. The origins, socially, politically, economically, were the Great Depression, the repeal of Prohibition, greater freedoms for women to start entering into society, and then in Hollywood, the advent of the sound film, and finally, the imposition of severe censorship. So after that, we then talked about the screwball comedy, that it is a satire on courtship and marriage, traditional institutions. At the center, you do have a couple that is mismatched. There's rapid fire dialogue, and it's not sentimental at all. And we contrasted that with the romantic comedy, which is a traditional love story with a dominant man, generally a passive woman, and he overcomes obstacles and wins her as the prize, and she has her satisfaction knowing she is completing him. And of course, we celebrated the screwball heroine, who is very self-determined, and she overturns normal courtship rules. She's on equal footing with man, and she gives as good as she gets.
I mean, literally in this film, it's such a surprise when Myrna Loy proposes, and that's just such a beautiful part of like the screwball. Of course, you know, like the ultimate screwball heroine is going to propose unexpectedly.
And you get two heroines in this.
Yes.
You get two anti-heroes with our two gentlemen. So you get two for the price of one with this film.
Absolutely. This is probably the third so far in the series that's dealt with newspapers and the press, and of course, you know, we have His Girl Friday coming up as well. Why was that such a common element in screwball film?
You see newspapers a lot and the press a lot in screwball comedy for two reasons primarily. Number one is that many former journalists were writing screenplays. At the advent of sound, Hollywood needed very accomplished writers, and they paid top dollar. They pulled from all disciplines. You had novelists, you had playwrights, and you also had journalists. And they came to Hollywood. So of course, like many accomplished writers, they wrote what they knew. They had intimate familiarity with the newsroom, being former reporters. They also understood, having known that milieu so well, they knew the underbelly. They knew the abuses that go on with the press. Whether you call it yellow journalism, jazz journalism, tabloid journalism, or today's fake news, the fact is that the power of the press can affect public opinion and public policy, and it can be abused. And so it was a ripe subject for satire. That's why it's skewered so often in these screwball comedies. Here you have a very unscrupulous owner. I'm going to quote from the film, because I thought it was important to focus on this. Behind all the laughs, there are some serious issues. He says, the owner of the newspaper says, "I've fought Allenbury for 20 years. I've kept him out of the Senate, and when they wanted to make him an ambassador, I stopped it." Never once does he say that Mr. Allenbury did anything illegal or unethical or anything wrong, that they had a personal grudge, that he even knew him. Probably, we're left to infer, he was probably from the wrong political party. And now he's going to double down on the wrongdoing of the press by now getting a con man to put this woman in a compromising position after learning from the newspaper's lawyers that she has a meritorious libel suit, that she has been wronged and damaged. So it's not a pretty picture.
Right, and the principal screenplay writer had a background in journalism, is that right?
That is
Dallas
correct.
Watkins?
She was a trailblazer. She started out working the courtroom beat in Chicago, and again, she answered the call to write screenplays in Hollywood. She came out and she was very tenacious. Lauren, an ugly truth about Hollywood is women really struggled to get accomplished, or still struggling. And what would happen is these women writers, it didn't matter how accomplished they were. They would become staff writers, but they wouldn't be credited. They didn't get the high wages. They were staff, they were never acknowledged. The men writers got the credit. You'll notice on this film, Maurine Watkins, she's on the screen credits. She was very tenacious. And she is known primarily at this age for this film and also for the play Chicago, which became the film Roxy Hart, starring Ginger Rogers in 1942. And then the movie Chicago of 2002 that won the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Oh wow, so she wrote that. That's
Yes.
fascinating. So let's talk about, so going back to those credits, the art director on this film, Cedric Gibbons, MGM legend. And I'm looking at the apartment, and it has those kind of like the Art Deco touches,
Oh,
and
yes.
this like Greco-Roman motif,
Yes.
and all of these classic.
And the cruise ship, of course,
Yes.
is loaded with Art Deco. His stateroom, and then also the dining room where they're meeting. So yes, Art
Yes,
Deco
and the
abounds.
Allenbury mansion. Yeah. So why is Cedric Gibbons like important to screwball comedy in general? Because I think his fingers are in a lot of these films.
He's huge, and the audience can use Cedric Gibbons' name, drop it at cocktail parties, impress people. He is the former director of the art department of MGM back in the day, and what happened was in 1925, Cedric Gibbons attended a design exposition in Paris, and it was radical. It was about current trends in architecture, design, and clothing, and out was fussy Victorian style with elaborate carved woods and clothing with heavy fabrics and, you know, high necklines and low hemlines.
Tchotchkes
bustles.
everywhere.
Right, exactly. When you think of Victorian housing with all the differing wood patterns of siding and the many colors, it's just the mantra of Victorian is more is more. And you see these heavy floral wallpapers. Well, he attends this exposition and you learn about Art Deco as being some glass, chrome, lacquered woods, shiny fabrics of rich satins and velvets. And the clothing, not only was it not high-necked, scoop necks and no sleeves and fitted toward the body and higher hemlines. And the patterns were geometrics and the chevron zigzags. It was revolutionary.
So sleek.
And the mantra of Art Deco is less is more, the exact opposite of Victorian. He brought this back. His mind was blown. He immediately started incorporating Art Deco into his set designs. Now today, audiences will most remember Art Deco probably not through MGM films, because all the other films copied Cedric Gibbons, all the other studios. You probably most remember Art Deco sets of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in all their musicals, those breathtaking sets. Well, it all started with Cedric Gibbons.
Oh, wow.
Lauren, we're going to talk more about Art Deco later in the film series when we get to My Man Godfrey. The Bullock apartment. Wow. It's an Art Deco paradise.
Okay, more William Powell and more Art Deco. Sign me up. So speaking of, Jean Harlow is I just adore her. She has the best screen presence. Everyone adores her, and she looks so. She is just the perfect heroine for that look. I mean, Myrna Loy is amazing as well, but in the sleek gowns and with the Cedric Gibbons sets, it's just so perfect. What's her status in the world of screwball comedy?
She is an icon, and she's also known as Screwball's first heroine. And the reason why is because in 1933, she starred in a movie that was very different from any other movie, and it was called Bombshell. It was directed by Victor Fleming of Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz fame, but in that, she delivered rapid-fire dialogue. It was pretty shocking, but she still retained being a sex goddess. So here she is with the banter, one-upmanship, the kooky physicality. She was, hitting all those marks with the men, but still retaining her sex goddess look, but she came off the pedestal. And so she became our first screwball heroine.
Oh wow, I never realized that. Yeah, she's just a force of nature. I would not want Jean Harlow to yell at me. No, no. So, and this movie was remade, right?
It was
about 10 years later.
Correct.
With Lucille Ball.
Yes.
In the part as Gladys. That
Yes.
I have not seen the film, but I can picture it. But how does she compare to Jean Harlow?
She matches Jean Harlow in her beauty, her extreme beauty, and also her willingness to be the butt of the joke. That to be the clown. So few actresses that are that beautiful and are known as sex goddesses will allow themselves to be the butt of the joke. Both Jean Harlow and Lucille Ball did that. Lucille Ball, you see through her screwball comedies, which is a decade later than Jean Harlow's, that you see the development of the comic force that she became as she evolved into the Lucy Ricardo character in our beloved I Love Lucy series. As a side note, the Film Society Screwball Comedy has compiled a comprehensive database of all the screwball comedy films. It is going to be available on the Film Society's website this summer, and visitors to the website can click on different films, different years, directors, stars, so they'll be able to look at Lucille Ball and see her list of screwball comedies. For instance, for me, one of my favorite screwball comedies is a Lucille Ball comedy. It's not well known today. It is called Miss Grant Takes Richmond, and I hope to show it at a future film series.
Oh, wow, that's terrific. I've not heard of that one either, but I trust your taste. So looking forward to it. Let's wrap up our discussion with the classic, the iconic fishing scene. I mean, when William Powell is like flopping around and the fish is it's so good.
It is impeccable physicality, physical comedy. You can see from the close-ups and the long extended scenes of the fishing scene that it is not a body double. William Powell did it all. It is iconic, not only for screwball comedy, but just of comedy in general. It was filmed on location in Sonora. But more important than that is what William Powell was doing as an actor. When you think of William Powell, the audience is going to be thinking of urbane, sophistication. They're going to think of the Thin Man. Here's a man who is charming and in control. And what do we see in that fishing scene? We see someone out of control. I mean, he is losing it. He's going down the stream, his wet floppy hat, gripping for his life onto the fishing rail as he's being dragged down the stream. You know, he's flailing around, he's floundering. And we know he's not an expert. We know he's not doing well at it, and we love him for it. I mean, he is the newspaper's fixer. He's the anti-hero. You know, he's trying to maneuver this woman into a compromising position, and we love him for it.
Yeah, I know when the book gets away from them, and I'm like, oh no, they're going to find the book. They're going to know.
We still root for him.
Yeah, right.
All the way. I mean, that's how effective he is, and this is why he's one of our most beloved actors of all time.
Yeah,
and why this movie is so special.
That's wonderful. Well, you're special, Aliece, and thank you. It is such a joy to be back here on stage with you.
I can't give you anything but love, baby. That's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, we're sure to find happiness.